I do like that line. I think you broke something. Well, I think with counseling you'll come to forgive me. And as you know, if you've seen the movie, you know that he did not come to forgive him. He went on to sue Mr. Incredible, and that was the beginning of the end of the supers. And they then had to go into hiding, and he went to have a desk job somewhere and got really fat. So we've all lived that story. We've all been there. We were all superheroes once, and now look at us, for just preachers. And here's the question we have to ask ourselves today. If you have your Bibles, open up to Mark chapter 6 for me. Mark chapter 7. And here's the question we have to ask is, what happens when Jesus challenges you? What happens when Jesus sees you go in one direction and says, nope, we're going to take you this direction. He stands in your way, and you want to run this way, and he kind of bounces you this way, and you now find yourself going this way. You feel like you have something standing in your path. What do you do? What do we do when Jesus challenges us? Do we, with therapy, come to forgive him, or do we hold it against him for the rest of our lives? How dare you put me through that? How dare you not give me what I wanted the moment I wanted it? How dare you just put me through this test? Or how dare you challenge where I think or where I'm coming from? What do we do? Because today what we're going to see is that Jesus is a king who challenges us. He doesn't just let us keep moving forward in our assumptions. He doesn't just let things kind of keep going the way they're going forever. He will look at us and he'll say something that's going to be there to challenge us. Because he's worried at times you're not quite following what he's trying to say. You're buying in, things are going well, but you might not be picking up something that he wants you to hear. So far in the book of Mark, we are doing this series in October and November called Kingdom Comes. It's on the book of Mark. And so far, we have seen Jesus do a lot of things, a lot of cool things, but one of the things that's happening at this point in the book of Mark is that the method behind Jesus' madness is starting to take shape. People are starting to pick up what he's dropping. People are starting to figure out, oh, I see what you're doing now. Oh, that's cool. I see what's happening here. And the way that Mark paints this picture for us is on this canvas of this place called the Decapolis. It translates as the 10 cities. This part of the world where Jesus shows up one day, and the thing that Mark's going to keep throwing at us out of this area of the Decapolis, the 10 cities, is this word begged. Jesus shows up and he sees a man and he begs him to go away. The demons beg Jesus not to torture them. They beg Jesus not to destroy them. Let us go into the pigs. And then the people heard about it and they begged Jesus, just get away from us. We don't want you here. You're killing us. Go away. And then the man who was formerly demon-possessed begs Jesus, let me go with you. That was probably my wife. And everything they're doing with this word beg is negative. You're doing this, we want you to do something different. You're doing this, we want something different. You're doing this, we want something different. And Jesus goes, all right, fine, I'm out of here. And the man says, Jesus, you're leaving without me. I want to go with you. And he says, no. Jesus did not let him. He said, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he had mercy on you. Let that cup overflow into the lives of people around you. And Jesus goes away, and if you missed that series, in the description online, we will have a link to The King Who Fights. We talked about that story a couple weeks ago. It's on YouTube if you want to find it. But then Jesus goes away, and then he comes back. And we start running into this word begged again. Except this time, it's not negative, it's all positive. And wherever he went, into the villages, in the towns, in the countryside, they placed their sick in the marketplaces. They just brought him out. Jesus coming. And they begged him to let them touch just the edge of his cloak. And they were all healed. They begged him, come to our town. They begged him, touch the deaf man. They begged him, touch the blind man. They begged him, come in closer. It used to be that they were begging him to get away, and now they're begging him to come close. It used to be they begged him to stop, and now they're begging him to do more. And what's happening in the Decapolis is this formerly demon-possessed man did what Jesus told him to do. And the message of Jesus is taking root. It's catching fire in the 10 cities and beyond, in Syria and Phoenicia and beyond, up north, up out of the place where no longer is that a place where Jesus does ministry in, but people are hearing about him and they want more of him. And the method to his madness is making sense to people. And people are coming in and they're gathering close and they want to know more. And this is the point where Jesus chooses to start challenging people. To start saying things that make them go, wait, what? What happened? This is the point where Jesus starts saying, hey, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. And you realize that Jesus has the worst PR people. He doesn't know how to accept a win. You know what I mean? We're going through an election season right now, and the first rule of elections is this. If your enemy's doing something dumb, don't interrupt them. And the second one is, don't mess up your own victories, all right? Which no politicians seem to be good at either of those, but Jesus isn't good at it either, and he doesn't want it. And he shows up, and we get this place in Mark chapter 7, where Jesus starts throwing these curveballs, and people have to start going, wait a second, what are you saying, Jesus? And he starts challenging the people who are coming to him. This is people starting to see Jesus as the person who can answer their problems. And he starts challenging those assertions. He starts going, why do you think that? Why do you think I'm going to fix this problem? And people, as we read, you're going to hear yourself go, I don't exactly know what's going on here. And in Mark chapter 7, we read this in verse 24. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. Now, Tyre is not in the Decapolis. It's not one of the 10 cities. It's actually more north, and it's far, east? Or west? It's on the Mediterranean Sea, which is hilarious to me because I read the Bible a lot. I never associate Jesus on the Mediterranean Sea. He's at a beach town somewhere having a good time. And normally when you think of Jesus on the sea, or like it's the Sea of Galilee, it's right in the middle of Israel, and now he's way out of the coast. He's at the Mediterranean Sea, eating some calamari and stuff like that. And the Greeks are very good at that. They do great stuff with the food. And so he's getting out of Dodge. He's leaving his area of ministry to kind of find some peace. And up there in Tyre, and then he meets this lady from Syria, Phoenicia, which are two regions even farther north. This formerly demon-possessed man has really gotten the word out about the mercy of Jesus. And he entered a house, and he did not want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. And in fact, as soon as she heard about him, the woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. And the woman was Greek, born in Syria and Phoenicia, and she begged, there's that word again, Jesus to drive out the demon from her daughter. Jesus is wanting some peace and quiet, as he often is trying to get with his disciples, and he can't get. And this woman shows up. She's in dire straits, and she says, I need you to drive out this demon from my daughter. Makes sense? You drove out demons from Legion, from the man who had legion of demons in him. It makes sense. He heals the blind. It makes sense. He raises girls from the dead. It makes sense. I need you to do this. In Mark, we later find out it is actually a demon that he needs help with, but the very beginning he says her daughter has an impure spirit. And I want to ask, why do you think that's what he said instead of just a demon? There's a demon in his daughter. Why are we bringing up the idea of impure? Like why are we bringing up the idea of morality in this situation when it's obviously something else? Well, I think there's a couple things. I think Jesus is not only about to challenge this woman, but he's also about to challenge his disciples. One of the things his disciples never quite grasped before Jesus died and rose from the dead, they never quite grasped the idea that Jesus came to save the world, not just Israel. They never quite understood that, which is for good reason, because no one did that. There were no like multinational religions before Jesus kind of invented the idea. Like, it was always very tied to your ethnicity. It was always very tied to your nation, your people, right? And so in Israel, they had these things called purity laws. There are these things that you couldn't do because those things were impure. Like, you can't hang out with pigs, you can't eat pork, that's impure. You can't eat shellfish, that's impure. And then it would start to expand. And there were these things that no longer are we just talking about this thing's impure, that thing's impure, and then it started to expand to people. You are impure. You are not welcome. You can't come into God. You can't walk in. And they're going, Jesus, this is an impure person with a daughter who has an impure spirit and an impure land. This is not our problem. And yet Jesus is right there in the middle of it. And here's my question. What do we know when the people around us and when society around us starts putting these things on us and putting these accusations on us? What do we know about that as human nature? We know it tends to get on us. We know it tends to grab hold of us and not want to let go, to where we start buying into it. One of the best definitions of shame I've ever heard was, it is the fear of being unlovable. That if anyone ever finds out about this thing, they'll never talk to me again, so that's just... And this shame and this impurity, it wants to grab hold of us and never let go. It wants to fight for control of us. It wants to fight to define you. This is what you are now. And Jesus, and the question is, what should the Christian response be to this shame that we feel? What's the Christian response be to the impurity or the things that we struggle with and go, wow, how do I unlive that? How do I live that down? And one question, should we psychologize it away? You just got to release it. You just got to let it go. You're just gonna have to. Someone else put that on you. That's not a real thing. You don't have to. You just have to come to terms with it and move forward. Okay? Have you ever tried that? Have you ever tried to just snap your fingers and say, "I don't feel bad about this anymore"? Does it work that way? No. Does it make things go away for us? Another thing we like to do in America is we like to legalize things away. Oh, it was never bad in the first place. Oh, don't worry about it. No, we're just going to make it okay. Hey, we're just going to snap our fingers and say, no, it was dumb that we ever had a problem with it in the first place. Don't worry about it. And yet, that doesn't work either. If something's self-destructive, just saying it's okay doesn't make it any less self-destructive. And here's what's fascinating. As our nation has moved more and more and more away from religion, more and more away from Christ as a sort of common idea, we have actually moved more and more towards things like therapy and medication. Now, I'm not here to criticize therapy or medication necessarily, but I am here to say this. They are evidence that just because we're trying to move away from these things, we're still trying to deal with them somehow. Right? They are evidence that there are things we're not just going to walk away from and hold our chin up high and go, yes, I'm now a whole person. That actually these are still things we feel a need to deal with somehow. And there's people, and so the question is, what should we do? Well, what this woman does with her daughter with the impure spirit and the impurity she's having, she's got to deal with, what she does is what I think we should all do. She takes it to Jesus. I'm going to go deal with this with Jesus. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring it to you. And she says, and she comes to Jesus, she begs him, remove the impure spirit from my daughter. And Jesus, he says this. It's going to be a line. No one in the world likes this line. This is the least liked line in the whole Bible. Okay, and the Bible talks about hell. Okay, but this is the least liked line in the whole Bible. Jesus said, first let the children eat all they want, for it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. Did you feel it? You all felt it, right? we all go, did Jesus call this lady a dog? We hate this line. It's a harsh line. And I don't know if he called her a dog, but she's definitely the dog in the analogy that he used, right? And if you go on YouTube, you will find, preachers who, by the way, a long time ago left orthodoxy, who will say things like, oh, this is Jesus being racist, and this morally superior woman had to lead him out of the racism, or he's being sexist, and she had to teach him how not to be sexist. He's going to teach you how to be a better person. And is that what's going on here? No, the people who are wrong about everything are wrong here too. Surprise, surprise. But here's what's happening. Jesus is challenging her. He's saying something that if she's not heard from the people around her, she's probably heard from herself. And it's something you've probably heard yourself too, which is this: I didn't come for you. You're not the kind of person I came to save. You're not the kind of person I came to love or to accept. And this is a big thing, all right? This is a serious thing that we have to wrestle to the ground, because there are times in your life where you will hear yourself say, you're not some people would go to church. Some people would give their lives to Christ, but you're not that kind of person. Some people can't find forgiveness for all the things that life has taken them through, but you knew better. You should have known better. You're not the kind of person that gets forgiveness there. You're not the kind of person that gets acceptance there because you should have avoided it. This is a message that we all hear, and you have to learn how to stand down that challenge. And here's the deal. Jesus says harsh things to people. He really does. He's about to call Peter, one of his best friends, Satan. Okay, that's pretty harsh. And none of us recoil at it. We all laugh and go, loser, Peter. But this woman, right, he's going to tell another guy, hey, let the dead bury the dead. Don't worry about your dad. If someone doesn't hate his mom or dad and follow me, he can't be my disciple. He's going to say some harsh things. But we want to sometimes kind of protect this lady from what Jesus is trying to teach her. And we don't get to just protect people from something Jesus needs to say to them. I got called upon to step on the field with my son's football team yesterday. The coach was out of town, so I was coaching a team that I'd never talked to before, and I was in a huddle with kids. I didn't know how ADD they were going to be and not follow any instruction. But I was actually on the field with them, and it was awesome because I got to celebrate a kid's touchdown dance celebration. Who likes touchdown celebrations? Anyone who thinks they go too far? Yeah. I loved it when Ezekiel Elliott jumped in the Christmas red bucket. After he got fined for it, but whatever. And my guy's over here. He's playing defense. The throw of the ball, he's in perfect position. But instead, it's fourth down, by the way. We're holding them, right? We're trying to get off the field. And instead of play the ball, he plays the person. And so the kid catches the ball, pulls the flag, he doesn't gain another foot, and he throws it down, goes full confidence kid meme. Oh, yes! He wants to give me a high five, and both his feet and the wide receiver's feet are firmly 4 or 5 feet inside the end zone. And I'm going, dude, you just gave up a touchdown. And here's the question. How do you help that kid? How do you help him? Do you go, oh, you know what, it's good enough. Bud, you're all right. That was, good effort. Or do you go, hey, man, you gave up a touchdown. Well, how do you help them? Sometimes the things we need to hear are not the nicest things that we want to hear. And Jesus says, hey, listen, here's a challenge you're going to have to learn how to deal with. You're not from Israel. I'm a Jewish Messiah. And they're going to sit here and assume that I didn't come for you. What are you going to say about it? And Lord, she replied. It's fascinating. She's like, okay, you have an analogy? I'll play along with the analogy. This is actually, by the way, this is kind of a sign of intelligence in people if they can play along with your analogy. You know what I mean? All right, fine, I'll go with you. Okay. Even dogs under the table get to eat the children's crumbs. And I got kids. There's a lot of crumbs under my table. And our cats don't eat any of them. They don't do anything. And then he told her, for such a reply, You may go. The demon has left your daughter." And she went home and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon was gone. That's the whole story. In those few words, she diffused the whole situation. So the question is, what happened? What did she do here? What did she do here to figure out Jesus' little puzzle? How did she stand down the challenge that Jesus offered her? Well, one of the things she does is that she did her homework. She's going, okay, all right, you're not here for me. That's fair. You're Jewish. I get it. My people have gods that are just for us. I get it. But I've heard about you, though. I've heard all around the kind of things that happen when you're around. I've heard that you speak and things happen. I hear you touch people and they're healed. I hear you talk to demons and they run away. I've heard things about you. She's done her homework. And she's learning, this is a good man. This is a powerful man. This is a strong man. And she's going, but isn't it the case that if all I were to get were crumbs, that would still be plenty of what I need from you? Isn't there so much goodness in you, Jesus, that even if I were to just get crumbs, I would have leftovers? Isn't there so much power in you, Jesus, that even if I just got the leftovers from the kids, it would be way more than I ever needed? And Jesus is going, whoa, this lady understands who she's dealing with. Most people view Jesus as someone that they have to kind of wrangle into position. I'm going to corner you, and then you'll finally do what I want you to do. And she's going, listen, I'll do whatever you want. I'll go with any agreement I'll get from you will be fine with me, because I know if I get anything from you, it'll be more than I could ever need in my life. And Jesus goes, you're right. That's wonderful. Good job. By the way, the demon's gone already. I've already done it. It's gone. It's gone. And here's what Tim Keller tells us what's so amazing about this woman in his book, The King's Cross. It's on the book of Mark. It's a really good book. He says, this woman is assertive in a way that most of us don't know how to be. Now, being assertive in general is not a crime, okay? So that's often very nice if you know how to just be assertive and say, hey, here's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, it's better for you to be able, some of us are so non-assertive that no one ever knows what you actually want. We can't, no one can even interact with you. They're like, well, I mean, I could do it with anything or whatever. And, you know, sometimes it would be a shame, right, for us to be assertive and have someone say, nope, I'm not going to give you what you asked for, than to be dealing with someone who would have said yes, but they never knew what you were actually asking for, right? Like it's a nice little skill to learn, to be like, hey, I'm going to tell you exactly what I want here. That's it's sometimes hard, but it's a nice thing to learn. But most of the time when we deal with people who are assertive and I'm going to assert my authority, that sort of thing, the way it gets out of hand is when we all go around saying, I'm going to assert my rights, or I'm going to assert my moral goodness. Jesus, you can't turn me down. Look how good I am. Jesus, look, you can't turn me down. I've done all these things. I've followed you my whole life. You got to give me this right now. Or we come in and we start asserting our rights. I give. I've served. I've done this. Jesus, you owe me. And when we come to Jesus, we can't assert our moral goodness, because any amount of moral goodness we have came from Him. We can't assert our rights because everything we have came from Him. But she doesn't assert either of those things. What she asserts is His own goodness. She asserts His own power. She asserts His own mercy. Okay, fine. But last time I checked, you're the best person in the history of the world. Last time I checked, you love me more than I love myself. Last time I checked, you came to earth to die for my sins. Last time I checked, you are a very good God. I'll take anything I get from you. And even crumbs from your table will be a grace I could never live down. And Jesus goes, this woman understands things that few in Israel have ever understood about me. It's an amazing thing. My mother-in-law, who passed away last year, she used to she used to call my brothers-in-law's dogs her vacuum cleaners, okay? And so one day Travis came up and visited us, and he brought his dogs up to my house for some reason. And I wake up and Sam's sitting there, he goes, "Dad, Grammy's vacuum cleaners are here." I go, "What are you talking about?" He said, the dogs are here. I go, "Oh, okay." And what would happen was they'd kind of keep them out of the room. We'd have our meals, and then they'd let the dogs in. The dogs come running in, and they just start eating the crumbs. They start licking everything up, and they spend days under the table, right? They're just down there getting all the crumbs they could ever want. And my mother-in-law was a very good cook, and my kids were very messy people. And so it was a great combination for a dog. And you'd never seen a dog so happy than we're eating the crumbs underneath the table at the Philbeck household. Because it's not the crumbs that matter, it's the table the crumbs fall from that makes all the difference. We live in a world that'll give you crumbs. We live in a world that'll toss some things out to you. Okay, fine, good work, good job, okay. Oh yeah, thank you, all right, whatever, you fit in for a little bit, okay, that's fine. But with Jesus Christ, there's a table that we eat at that is so beautiful and so valuable that even crumbs from it are the best things you could ever find. And the question is, why does Jesus feel a need to challenge us in this way? Why does Jesus feel a need to say, hey, you're going to have to learn how to deal with challenges to your faith. You're going to have to learn how to deal with this. And the reason is because life with Jesus was not always going to be a giant party. The story of Jesus is not only going to involve miracle healings, big meals where everybody's fed, and fun times and cool teaching. There's going to be bad things that come along with it. And as Jesus starts taking his disciples further into his mission on earth, he starts challenging them more and more. In chapter 8, he's going to say this: he then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things. And he must be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, that they must kill him, and after 3 days he must rise from the dead. Things are coming down the line that you'll have to figure out how to deal with. And who are what does it say when he says he's going to be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the teachers of the law? These are the elites. They're the college professors. They're the celebrities. They're the people you have to fit in with if you want to feel good about yourself. They're the Bill Maher's. They're the podcast hosts. They're the people out there, the school teachers, the people out there who are going to say, hey, if you want to fit in, you got to do this. And guess what? Almost all of them are going to be rejecting Jesus. Here's a fascinating thing. I kept going back and forth whether or not I want to do this. I'm going to do this. Here's a way where the authorities at hand have just outright rejected Jesus and rejected the Bible. And if you want to fit in with them, you're going to have to play ball. The realm of archaeology. Archaeology, the people who know what they're talking about, the experts have a whole list of things that take place in this Bible. They say never happened. They just made it up off the top of their head. There's no evidence. And do you know something about archaeology? Every single time there's a discovery that says either the experts or the Bible's right, every single time it proves that the Bible is right. Do you know why that is, though? Do you think there's nothing they ever got like a little bit wrong in here? Maybe they got some things wrong in here. Maybe they said it was over here when it's over here. But the reason that it's 100% on this side and all losses on this side is because they were so arrogant to say, if I don't have a reason to think it's out there, it's not. Unless I have hard evidence, I'm going to just assume the Bible's wrong. And because they go, well, we're just going to reject it out of hand, they're in a position where every single time there's an archaeological discovery, they're on the hook for being embarrassed in public. But guess what? Jesus said it's going to happen. They're going to reject us. They're going to mock us. They're going to draw lines in the sand. And you'll have to have the nerve to be the odd one standing out. The odd one from the crowd. And he said, whoever wants to come be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. And so Jesus is not worried about challenging what you think, challenging your heart, challenging your position, because that's practice. When you're at practice, you want to put people in things that look like game time situations. And we work these muscles out. And we go, all right, I'm going to choose Jesus, and I'm going to just deal with the fact that I'll be rejected alongside of them. They're going to think I'm dumb. Who cares? Because the question is, whose table are you eating from? Are you going to eat from a table that is so good and so beautiful that it has changed the whole world? Or are you going to eat from a table that is going to constantly be changing, constantly moving, constantly forcing you to prove yourself again? Do it again. Change your mind again. No, this is what we say now. This is what we think now. This is what's right now. Whose table are you going to eat from? Because Jesus says, there's so much goodness at my table that your cup will constantly be overflowing. But you're going to have to deal with the fact that these guys over here are going to be rejecting your leader. There's a story I heard about Alexander the Great. The band can kind of go ahead and come up. And one of his generals, his treasurer came in furious one day. And he's so mad. And Alexander the Great's like, what's wrong? It's okay, what's going on? And he goes, you will not believe this. One of our generals has a son who's getting married, and he asked for you to pay for it. And he asked for this exorbitant amount of money, just an insanely amount of it just. And he's going, and Alexander the Great goes, okay, well, what is it? How much did he ask for? And the treasurer tells him. And instead of Alexander the Great getting furious, his face softens and he starts to laugh. And he goes, give it all to him. The treasurer goes, no wedding needs to be this expensive. Are you crazy? No. And he goes, listen, by making that request, he thinks I'm rich enough to do that. And he thinks I'm kind enough to give it to him. Give it to him. With Jesus Christ, we have a man who's so rich in goodness, so rich in mercy, so rich in kindness and goodness and grace, that when we come to him saying, I need this forgiveness, I need this love, I need this grace from you, or I can't go through it. He's going, not only do you think I'm gracious enough to forgive that, but you think I'm kind enough to do it. I'll give it all to you. Because in Jesus we have the richest man in the history of the world. And we also have the kindest man in the history of the world. Who doesn't say you have to prove yourself to come to me. Who says, I've made a table for you. Come down and sit. Because here's what's the true thing about this challenge that Jesus made to this woman. And that's that he did come for her. He didn't come so that she could eat crumbs off the floor. She came so that she could sit at the table with all the people of God. And so that mercy and goodness could follow her through her life all the days of her life. And that her cup could overflow just like everyone else's. And to you and to me, he gives the same offer. He says the same thing. I did come for you. I did come for you. Come and sit at the table. Father,